How's your day been, Jerry?
Pretty good, as days go.
Stay in an air-conditioned building?
That's
Warm enough in Layton.
Think of those guys that are out there on the streets, and boy, I'll tell you, this would be a tough time of the year.
Construction. Glad I don't work for them.
We got Dave?
Whatever, you work all the time, you're never home.
Yeah.
There's work.
Hey, you look as good, Dave. I'm hoping.
He's muted. You muted again.
You guys look the same.
Can you hear us, Dave?
Yes, yeah, loud and clear. Thank you.
We should all hit.
Okay, let's begin this work meeting. The final approval of amendment of Clark/UDOT subdivision. I know a little bit about it. Ty, do you?
Yeah, or one of the planning reps, did it go through planning zoning? So the amendment is just the Clark subdivisions over at the UDOT sheds and where the
Storage units?
storage units are going. And so we had that plat needed amended because they got another acre to add on to the storage units. And so it's just an amendment to the plat. And then part of the thing is that industrial road didn't make it to the end of the property line when UDOT developed it. So this is an agreement for them to be able to do another acre of that road, but then they're only responsible to extend half the road to that end. And the Clarks that own the other side of the road understand that if they were developed, they're responsible for their half of the road.
So it'll just extend to that end of that acre.
Yep. Yeah, because just requiring their portion of it.
A portion of it is in the flood zone. Is that what this shows, or?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see.
Did I miss a planning meeting?
You miss a what?
Planning meeting?
This
This was back in April.
they said this didn't go through planning.
Oh, I was gonna say, okay, all right.
So why wouldn't it go through planning?
I didn't go to the planning one, so I thought that's what it.
I didn't think I'd missed a planning, but I'd never seen this brought before planning.
That's what Dave just asked.
I think it went through planning commission clear back in April. Kip and Corey have had to redo the plat, so it showed the amount of road that they were gonna add, and I highlighted that in the development agreement and the exhibit. And so it's taken a while to get that exhibit to.
So what did the planning commission determine?
Wouldn't there be, shouldn't there be a recommendation?
Do you remember it, Dave? Because I don't remember.
No, I don't. That'd be a question I have. I don't remember it, but then I missed last meeting also.
I remember it.
You do?
I remember it was Corey that was here without Kip.
And I don't know if it's required or not. I was just, because I didn't go to the planning meetings, before I talked about it, I didn't know if somebody else had already been through, so.
So Steve, we've seen the original, the planning commission forwarded an original recommendation on, and we've seen that, but I don't remember seeing the additional acre being added onto it coming from them.
I don't either.
Well, Gary, would this have been something, if it was just amendment of a subdivision? Would it have went through the planning commission?
Should have been gone through the planning commission.
Okay, let me get Teresa on the phone.
Yeah, good thing we're having a work session.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave and I have minds like steel traps, once it's in there.
That's why we rely on Tony. That's why he's there.
But I don't think between you and I, we've missed a planning meeting when we both weren't there.
Yeah, good point. And that's a good point, Tony. Each of us have said to the other, I won't be there, and there's been coverage for sure, and I don't think we've seen it.
So you don't remember Corey being there?
No, I do not, but hey, maybe, it's onset of something,
I was at a
Dave and I are a little older.
development.
Maybe
No,
that,
That's why I started the conversation that way, is because typically they go through,
Yeah, yeah.
planning and zoning, but unless it doesn't need their approval, because the agreement is basically an agreement for the road. Right, so the road the road was supposed to have been finished, but it didn't. So it was all approved with the road clear to the end of that lot line,
Right.
but they left that road short. And so when they did the addition, we're like, well, you gotta take the road clear to the very end. And they're like, well, we don't mind taking it to the very end, but we're not gonna do a full road when we're only, because originally the subdivision was both sides of the road, but this amendment extends the subdivision. And so we've been working with them. Gary, this is the one we worked with on on the agreement, how the agreement would work.
So it went to the planning commission on April 19th. I can't get a hold of Teresa.
Okay, but you found
But this is the agenda for the.
so
April-
Denise, is it the First Amendment though, or is that the original?
It's the First Amendment for Adam storage.
I think they go
And then
by
they did the
Lucerne
development
Management
agreement,
Company.
And then it was sent to the council. They recommended a development agreement that came to the council. She doesn't have her minutes in here. But Corey and Kip will be at this meeting at 7.
with the 7 o'clock. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Anyway,
guess
that's
maybe Gary, a question for you. Is it required to go to the planning commission?
It was, I remember sitting down with these two regarding the development agreement. We sat down and I believe that was a requirement of the planning commission. And they're the ones that would give final approval on this. I don't think, well, it actually comes to council as well. So for final approval. So yes, it would have gone to the planning commission, then to you.
Yeah, okay.
But I
So-
think I don't have any notes from the planner. All I had to put in the packet was the engineer's notes.
Hmm.
And then the development agreement.
Mhm. So
If so Denise, if this was in April, why are we just seeing it in July if it was a favorable recommendation?
Took the Adamses a while to get the plat amended, so that the new plat that says tentative on the bottom shows how far out they will build the road. And I highlighted that.
in yellow.
And then the rest of it is not highlighted, and that's what the developer, future developer.
Yeah,
On the phone, do you want to ask any questions?
do you have a microphone, Denise, or not?
Oh, you can't.
Yeah, you can't hear me?
It was a little, if I looked real close, I could read what you were saying.
Okay, so it took so long to get here because Kip and Corey had to redo the plat
Okay,
to show the portion of the road that they would put in. And so I've highlighted that on the plat
okay,
as one of the exhibits that go with the development agreement.
yeah, all right.
So it just took a while for them to get it to me to have the attachment.
Okay, well, it sounds like we're ready to move forward as far as the technicalities then.
Did anybody have questions for Teresa? She's on the phone now.
The question that we needed
Okay.
Teresa for.
Or if they have the recommendation, if a
Does she have the
recommendation was forwarded.
The recommendation from the planning commission.
So the planning commission was that they did approval of the additional 1 acre lot with a recommendation of a delay agreement.
And that's
And
what
that
we
was
have
it, but
now.
didn't specify the delay agreement.
And that's what we have now. is
That,
delay
yeah, the
agreement.
development agreement is what.
I mean,
comes to the-
development
yeah.
agreement, not delay. I'm
And
sorry.
it,
development.
that has to come through the city council. Planning
Yeah.
commission doesn't do the development agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Go back to soaking your feet.
Did you run to your grandkid's birthday or something? I think that might have been that time.
What day
You got
was it?
one in
April 19th? Oh, my granddaughter's birthday.
Yeah.
I wasn't here. Dave, I got an excuse. How about you?
Yeah. Evidently, I wasn't either. I was, but not tuned in, I suppose.
That's a pretty good memory.
That's a steel trap over there.
Yeah, that steel trap's getting some rust.
It's April 19th, April 9th, that's my granddaughter's birthday. Very
Yeah.
good.
That's
Or
good.
it was yesterday, so that's pretty.
The only
You
reason,
know, you get old, you can remember way back, but not today. Okay, any more discussion? That looks like it should flow through?
So Ty, is there a completion date or is it just whenever? I noticed there wasn't one built into the agreement.
Oh, that's just their requirement. So before we approve anything, it's not a time frame, but they don't get occupancy on the new storage units until this road's finished out.
Okay, just part of the overall project needs
Yeah,
to.
and then the development agreement just says at the point of development, meaning that when the next entity develops, they put in the rest of the
Uh-huh.
road, and they recognize that. And that's what Adams had to do, is go back and communicate that to the adjacent property owner. Hey, do you want to participate or not? They're like, we don't want a road, to go beyond there. So basically, they just have to bring that road up to where it was supposed to have ended before they bought it.
Okay.
that's what's highlighted in
Yep.
yellow here.
Yep. And it wasn't needed. So when they first did the storage units, they didn't need access. So it wasn't a limiting factor. So when they said, hey, we want to do more, then we're like, that's when this came up, and it's like, well, you haven't even put the road in on your first lot, you know what I mean? And they're like, well, we bought it that way. So, you tell us. And with Gary's help, we got it all done by agreement. So nobody's negatively impacted in the future. So.
Well, good work. And thank you, Denise, for
Good
the
job.
clarification.
Will there ever come a time when that road needs to be extended to the end of that new property?
Yep, and that's what the agreement tells because it's not their property currently. The property where the road goes,
That's theirs right there. It ends right there.
so that's what Adams did, is they're like, well, they didn't give us property to put the road in. So they could have acquired the property, put the road all the way through, but the owner said, no, we want to keep the property. We'll put the road through when we develop.
Later on.
Okay, all right.
And it'll be recorded with the property.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
But we couldn't leave a gap between there.
Yeah. yeah.
So Adams have to build to the end of
Wouldn't make much sense to leave it
there, and then they did try and say, well, we'll buy the property and put the road in, whatever we got to do. And they're like, no, we want to keep the property. We'll put the road in when we develop. Which essentially they're saying, we're not going to do it anyway. We're going to wait till someone buys the property.
Somebody else buys it and they'll do it
And they'll
anyway.
put the road, but the access again isn't needed to the end of that property just for the additional storage, because they have their in and out already
Front end.
on the, you know what I mean? They have their access points and all that, so
Okay.
clears mud.
That cleared it up.
Certainly cleared it up,
Made it easier anyway.
just like April 19th.
You had cake, ice cream.
Granddaughter's 12th birthday. It's all coming back to me.
Yeah. It isn't for me, Tony.
You're a little older, Dave.
Yeah, that's it. Those 3 months make a difference. So watch out. Just beware.
Okay, we're okay with that one? We move to number
Yes.
3.
Yep, good.
Update of the minor changes to the North Morgan Water Users Association settlement and agreement by the attorney of the North Morgan Water Users Association. I could explain everything, but I'm gonna let Ty or Gary.
So I'll just keep, while I'm hot.
He's on a roll.
I'm not out of words yet. So if you remember, we approved the North Morgan agreement. We sent it to them for review. Their attorney made a couple of minor adjustments. Nothing that really negatively impacts us. In discussion with Gary, he said we could just make the council aware and not have to put it all on the agenda again. And so this is your chance to see what the changes are, and then we would just have the mayor re-sign. They are planning, one of the paragraphs in there that says that they had to have a vote and have a meeting according to their bylaws, and they're scheduling that in the future. So that first meeting when we were all like, did they vote? Did they not? That was just to see where it was more like, see what interest level they had. And so now that the agreement's finalized and they've had their legal review on it, this is the final copy. They'll schedule a meeting and actually vote on the agreement. So before, when they took a vote, they didn't have an agreement to all the terms and all that to review. And so this kind of where that's the agreement, but it's also where we're at in the process.
So Ty, the changes that you mentioned were the highlighted words in red.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read through it. It didn't look like it was material.
Right. They're non-substantive, really.
Yeah.
So at this meeting, does everyone that holds shares, do they vote or is it just a board that votes?
You vote by shares. So they'll have to have a shareholders meeting,
It's 2/3.
2/3.
Has to agree with it.
Um,
So the city's a huge water or shareholder. So
Yeah.
Denise and I were wondering if you would represent the city on that.
So you.
I can't represent it because I'm a member, so I'll be voting on my own shares.
I can't do. I'll be voting the city shares, you mean?
Yeah. So we own about 1/3 of the company.
I remember way
Something like
back when we bought quite a few shares along the way there a few years ago. So, yeah.
And that's a good point of clarification that they are following that. We'll get the agenda and the vote and the minutes after that, as per this contract. So,
And then those next steps that are there need to
yeah, we'll follow
go
those
through,
through, yeah.
but we need to get this.
Yeah, and then just for awareness sake, I've ordered the appraisal on the property.
No.
Don't we order one or do we accept theirs?
Well, so I had already ordered one before we came to terms, and I put a pause on it until I was comfortable with the terms, and I just ordered it. And they can either agree with it or get their own.
Oh, so they're going along with the one that we've ordered.
Potentially, they have the
Yeah.
option to order.
Yeah,
their-
okay.
So those timelines in here would not really kick in until after they vote
Fine.
to accept it.
Yep.
That starts the clock.
Mhm.
There's still some work to do.
Yeah, we still need to create the contract. If they vote that way and individual members turn in their shares and enter into individual agreements with the city, we still need to draft a contract for that with these same terms in it.
Gary, I've drafted one, I'll send it to you.
I would assume that the council would prefer that I vote in favor of this agreement.
Well, if we signed it,
So
If we signed it.
Would that be safe to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
head
I
nod.
don't want to step out of line here.
You'll vote to approve it. Tony goes to the meeting and denies it.
No.
Wait a minute.
Third of the company denies
A
it.
third of the company denies it after we've all voted to approve it.
yeah,
That'd be glorious.
all these years and all this effort, and there's always that one guy. Who knew he was on our side?
Surprise,
point now. Yeah, why not?
But still some work to go forward, but it looks like it's on, I feel like it's on common ground now.
Plus, I dare you to find your no vote based on one word in the whole contract.
Stayed in.
I'm just daring him. I'm not referring to
Yeah.
that.
He's looking at
As
me.
long as you're being like that guy. you might be able to-
He's looking at me.
Okay, any more up to date on that?
Good.
When is the meeting? Has it been scheduled or?
We haven't heard
They're
a date
working on
yet.
Yeah, they're still scheduled. I'll let you know when I hear from Rex.
Their changes on their letter came just last week, wasn't it? So,
All right.
so I don't know when the meeting will take place.
19th.
Committed to get some training for Gary. So the number 4, memorandum for the business license application for the post. So the way I understand that is they have everything in order. They've purchased the liquor license. And they have approval from the health department verbally, just not written yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's one memo that was in your packet and Stephanie did another one that I handed out here. And the health department, they have their approvals, but they just don't have the certificate. They're already operating the business and the license was transferred from the previous owner to Jeff Warren by the ABC.
And business is booming.
What you say?
They're gonna run it, the two halves of it still. There'll still be a restaurant out front and the
I think that's the plan, yeah.
bar.
Bar grill in the back.
That's a good burger and onion rings.
I heard originally that the Geneva is only gonna give them like a 5-year lease on that. I don't know if that's true or not.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
I did, that was 2 or 3 years ago, so. Nothing official.
So I think all their ducks are in order. We just need the health department to sign the final.
And then the city will give them their license.
No real discussion on that, right?
Moving it from
Does that have to? be
one
voted
business to
on,
another.
or-
Yeah, would we have to vote? Take it in or?
In the next meeting?
It's not even on the.
No, it isn't. That's right.
No, it's just it's a memorandum.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We should,
in our code.
Yeah.
It does, we need to amend our code. Because we made it so that the city. Licenses,
state, didn't we?
and we
Yeah.
refer to the state, but I think we might still need to, because it asks for city council approval
Yeah.
for a restaurant liquor license. So,
We can put that on next month
yeah,
or next meeting.
yeah,
How many do we have in town?
Liquor licenses.
I think we just have two.
No?
This one and the package store for
Yeah,
Julie.
Liquor store.
Julie.
Well, and then what about like 7-Eleven? They have to
They have
the
a,
Nebco?
what's called the
Beer.
beer license. So, because it's an off premise.
Well, doesn't the box car have a,
I don't think they have one yet.
I swore I saw beer on the menu.
Apple beer, root beer, ginger beer, all okay.
I don't know.
Yes, I did. Huh.
I'll have to take a look, because I know we adopted all of the changes that had to do with distances and those requirements. But I'm not sure that we abrogated our ability to just give general approval. I'll have to take a look. So, can't remember. Is anybody's
remember that.
birthday on that day? April 19th. April 19th. So,
Is there any more questions on that, discussions?
I guess really there's not much we need to do with it. And
Yeah.
Because it's not on the agenda to approve, right?
Right.
It's just, it's
And if you need a head nod from us, then I'll give you my head nod. Say,
Other than we'll clear up that at a future meeting.
yeah. If you just want a head nod from us, then we can do that.
We'll make motions in the future.
It's good work.
Do a head nod. Hat off.
Okay, Gary,
All right.
this is actually the first time I've ever received training from you.
Is that right? Well, shoot, better make this happen easy
Before
then.
Gary begins, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Then on our active agenda, C and D, are we just gonna talk about that when we get to the active agenda? I guess so, right? Okay, all right. I don't even understand reading the C. I don't even understand the sentence, so I'm a little bit lost there.
we were just making room for training.
Fine, solar.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry, Gary.
Nope.
Not to steal your thunder.
yeah, we keep having work sessions discussing everything, and then when we get up there, everyone's like, we've already discussed this, and then they feel, but, so a couple of those we can just
Okay,
take up in the
all right,
actual meeting,
okay,
yeah.
fine.
Okay.
Didn't mean
All
to
right.
get into your time.
You guys are good. Anything but training. Yeah, that's fine. What would be the most important, I think, most important training that we could give you? Started to think, and then I thought, no, you know everything. And so there's not much more I can teach you. But for those of you that do have a little more room for learning, some of the simple things that we end up in doing on a council and as a 6-member council form of government, just to review, that's what we are. We're a 6-member council form of government. We're not strong mayor. They call it strong mayor, but it's really 2 separate entities. You have the mayor and his staff, and you have the council and their staff. And there are only about 7 or 8 of those in the state of Utah. The rest of them are all 6-member council forums. And 6-member council forums means you all have pretty much equal power except in the vote. The mayor has the opportunity of being the chair of public meetings, all public meetings. And as the chair, he's supposed to be an unbiased kind of mediator. He's supposed to be a leader, the person who leads the conversation, who guides the conversation. And I had Denise print off the Bible. It's very short. This is the first book. This is Genesis. And it's the Bible on the rules of procedure, which are required by law to adopt. And I thought rather than going through every single one of them, I'm just going to kind of give you an overview of exactly how this thing's supposed to run. You know, one of the worst experiences I ever had was going into the Capitol when everybody was tuning up for a band presentation. And I don't know if you've ever heard that building, but it echoes all over the place. And you had about 3 different bands all tuning up at different places in the Capitol. And it was like echoing off the walls. And everybody's, I think it forced the senators back into their closets and the representatives back into their closets. And you had all these high school students who don't hear anyway, right? They're just, they were listening to all this, trying to tune their instruments. And so city council meetings are a lot like that. They can be totally tuned, everybody in order, everything running smoothly. And one of the best indicators of whether or not everything's running smoothly is what time does the meeting end? I love that. What time does it begin and what time does it end? If it's ending at midnight, it means you've got a bunch of people tuning up that really have not had the opportunity to play together before. And I've seen that happen. I remember spending, I lost 6 hours of my life at a city council meeting in Kaysville one night when the mayor accidentally opened up the question of whether or not the citizens ought to participate in the building of a sidewalk that was missing in the city. And boy, I'll tell you, they were there in droves and everybody had a story of, I paid for sidewalk in the past, I gave property in the past, that type of thing. By the time we got done, it was past midnight. And I can't remember a past midnight. Have we had a past midnight here? I don't think we ever.
We went to 11:59 here a couple of months ago.
We were close at one night.
Oh, yeah, when Mayor
Okay,
Gale was
so
mayor.
the band did not tune up on that night at all.
Yeah. So Gary, what you're saying is if we can finish in 30 minutes, we're a killer council?
You're a killer council. Denise just put her thumb up, so that means you're exactly right, Dave. That's exactly right. But I'm going to tell you, and this is really sad, but the person that you can either blame or give the success to sits right here at the end of the table. And I tell my mayor that in Layton, I tell every mayor that essentially the city council meeting is your meeting. This work meeting is a little bit different because of the way that we are situated. We're all situated around a table. Your policies and procedures say you can sit around the table, you can talk, you can be open with each other, and really everything doesn't go through the mayor when you're at this type of meeting. Although this is still the mayor's meeting. This is still the mayor's meeting. So if he finds that something's going a little bit too long, you can cut it off and you can actually take us to the next subject like you just did. Well, we need to get to the next subject because we need Gary's training. I like that line. That's a really good line.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Right on.
I'm going to put that in the policies and procedures from this point forward. But thank you, Mary. Thank you. So this meeting is a little different, but the meeting out there in the pub, in front of the public is probably the most critical meeting. And this type of exchange where you got somebody in the audience that wants to talk or two council people that want to talk begins to start sounding like those tuning up high school students in the Capitol when you start exchanging comments with each other. First no is city council should never be exchanging comments with each other that the public can't hear while you're up at the dais. That's one of the rules. And every once in a while, this thing actually records what you say up there. And we had one, I'm going to tell a story about, did I tell you about Steve Handy? He had, I don't know if he has a nervous tick or what he has, but he'll go, when somebody will make a comment, he'll go, yes, right. You know, and that's right. Couldn't get more right. No, shouldn't do that. It was just a nervous tick that he had. So this person would be testifying. And I remember one day, this person was testifying that his business was in an RDA and should be receiving funds from that RDA. And you could hear this in the background of the recording. Yes, in the RDA, yes, should be receiving funds. And all I had when it came time for a challenge to the dispersion of those RDA funds was Steve Handy's voice, very, very loudly saying, yes, we need to give this man money for his business in the RDA. When really the decision of the council that night was, no, we should not give this man money. There is no reason to give this guy money. He's further down the street, didn't need it. But guess which one almost prevailed? And it was the comments that were made. So a lot of your comments will be picked up by the system, by Ty's tremendous system, which this is one of the best that I've ever seen. It really, truly is. But this will pick up everything for you. And so.
And this can I mention something?
Sure.
In these recordings, I can pause the recording on the Zoom. That does not stop the recording on YouTube. So when you're switching meetings, that is still going and it is still picking up everything. So just FYI.
So the comments about the guy that just left the room, that guy's a fruitcake. That's going to actually be picked up by YouTube and recorded so that his family can see it because they're watching, wanting to know what happened. So and I just made a mistake. I didn't ask the mayor before I actually responded to it. Yeah, go ahead, Denise, make that comment. But you are in control of the meeting. It's your meeting. The work meeting is your meeting as well. It belongs to the council as a whole, but the council expects that they're going to have a leader, and that leader will essentially conduct the orchestra so you don't hear tuning of any sort. And when you get into the actual meeting, there's a policy that most cities have that everything should go through the chair. And it's interesting to watch them up at the legislature, the way they act, because the comment is always, Mr. Chair, may I? And once they receive approval to do that, they go ahead and proceed and make their comments. And it's very orderly, and it's essentially the way that we are required to operate when it comes to government. However, at a local level, sometimes we're a little more flexible than that. But typically, everything really should go through the mayor. In other words, we should have the mayor acknowledge the fact that we would like to talk rather than having 3 conversations going on or a conversation going on with somebody out in the audience directly. It's, Mr. Mayor, can I answer that question? You know, or can I ask a question? In the actual meeting itself, in the formal meeting itself, that really is the more appropriate way of doing it. You'll find your meetings are going to click by a lot faster if that's the case. So the mayor calls on people, the mayor allows those individuals to speak. And that's probably one of the biggest, causes of you getting done before midnight is you controlling the traffic and making sure that the traffic runs on time. So there's a lot of different subjects that the mayor is required to kind of concentrate and focus on. But the main item that the mayor is required to do is to make sure that everybody stays on track. We had one night, you might remember the zone change that we had. And you remember somebody drifting back and forth into taxes and, sales tax and property tax. And you are perfectly authorized, Mayor, to indicate to that person, I think, was that Mayor Little or was it?
It was,
Actually brought him, I can't remember. David, you probably remember.
yeah, I think it was Ray Little.
Okay, so he brought him back and said, you know what, we appreciate your comments very much, but quite frankly, we need you to keep them relevant to the subject at hand. Otherwise, you're going to be all over the place. You got the entire band, 3 bands tuning up is what you end up in having. And so that is one of the things that the mayor is responsible for doing, is carefully monitoring the subject and making sure they keep track of the subject matter. Council members, what's your responsibility? You have an obligation to speak, right? And unlike the planning commission, who can't really speak their mind, they have to essentially, and we have to remind them of this all the time, but their primary responsibility is to advocate for the ordinance. That's it. They shouldn't be wandering all over the place. The council has a little more flexibility. And so they're going to expect you to speak. They're going to expect you to put things on the record, and particularly your reasons for making decisions. So Mayor, a lot of times where you see, for example, a zone change happening or something happening where, and we'll try and give you signals on this, Ty, myself, where there's a potential for conflict or litigation, or we might request, and you might request, that there be a little more comment on why we're deciding the way that we're deciding. And that comment generally comes during the citizen or the comment period after the motion is made. So you got a motion and a second, and then you have a comment period, right? And that's, the courts often look to that period as being the time when these council members are all expressing the reasons why they decided this way. And so that's probably the most important part of the whole meeting, is that anybody got any comments on this? And then that's where you give your comments. Now, does that happen every time? You got some that are so simple that you're not going to need to do that. But wherever you perceive that there's a conflict, and that conflict may end up in court, we need to have you make a record and make sure you express yourself. The courts have also said, we're going to go ahead and we'll take a look at the whole band, and we'll take a look at how they all shape out and the things they all play. And we'll try and draw out of that something that makes sense, a tune that makes sense. But it's a heck of a lot easier if the whole band is playing together and one instrument plays, or one section of the band plays at a time. And that's why we try and focus on that comment period, rather than having everybody give input at different times and then tell the court, you got to figure out what my position was based on what my tune was during the course of the meeting. And sometimes that's not entirely easy. The rules that we actually manage the meeting by, and I hope this is helpful. If it's not, let me know. But the rules that we actually use, if we actually use Robert's Rules of Order, which many people just adopt per se, they adopt them but never use them. And so we have not adopted specifically Robert's Rules of Order. what we've tried to adopt is what you guys do naturally. And we tried to put it in 2019, we put it in a set of policies and procedures. So when you're making motions, we've tried to go with the way you've made them all in the past. And when you vote, it has anything to do with dollars, the mayor is going to take an individual vote from each of you. When it has anything to do with encumbering the city or binding the city, either dollars or in an ordinance or something of that nature. When it's just a resolution, just authorizing money for the cleanup, the high school cleanup. All in favor? Aye. Everybody says aye. That type of a vote goes a lot faster, by the way. So if we can, as many of those as we can do, we do. But don't skip the individual votes on those things that are important because those are required by the law. So
So
the other
Gary,
thing is, oh, go ahead. Yes, David.
so, Gary, I noticed that you mentioned that these are the way we do things, and we really do. As I read through it, I was impressed that they match up very, very close in what we're doing, and Mayor Steve is doing a good job just right out of the chute. But nonetheless, I see references to the state code, the state statute that on some of the paragraphs, we need to match up with that also. And this, we'd feel good that this does. I mean, we're just not out, we're not a rogue community out doing our own thing.
No, and exactly to that point, 10.3 hasn't been changed for some time. So there's some outdated pieces even in 10.3 of the code. As long as 10 years ago, we were looking at trying to make some changes. But this set of policies and procedures match what is in state code currently. And so it's meant to track, and as recently as 2019 anyway.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So the code goes. So the next item is, can I talk about just something that recently happened that might be of interest to you? You're coming up to a season where you're dealing specifically with where the idea of quorum, what is a quorum? Who can be there when decisions are made? What kind of decisions can be made with 3 of you in a room? What kind can't? What types of meetings can you hold? Here's a question for you. You have a candidate for State House of Representatives. And that candidate says to Tony, I really would like to meet with you and talk to you a little bit about how the city's doing. Would it be all right if I met with you and just kind of got an idea of how the city's doing? Appropriate meeting under the Open Meetings Act? Is that all right for one-on-one meeting with a state legislator?
You know, I'd hope, because I just did that.
We all did it.
Yeah, sure you did.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's next one, okay? So in order to expedite I'm a candidate, in order to expedite my conversation, would you mind if we pull in Jeff too? Would that be all right? If we just pull in Jeff and the mayor? Can we pull in Jeff and the mayor?
In the same
And,
meeting?
yeah, in the same meeting, would you guys mind if I did, held the meeting with 3, because you guys are the key council members. I really want to talk to you and find out what's going on. How'd you feel about that?
Probably not too good.
Okay. Not too good.
Me,
You're getting a little bit more where you don't feel comfortable. Is
the
the mayor
mayor's
voting?
non-voting though.
Is it very, no, mayor's,
You don't have a quorum there technically.
you don't have a
But I
quorum.
would look at it this way, as the mayor can control the conversation and control the meeting, so.
So let me ask you a question.
This is good.
May I ask you a question?
Can he ask me a question? Sorry, Mayor.
So it actually happened. I mean, so I got a phone call from one of the individuals running for state legislator
Legislator.
to meet me if I would meet them somewhere, and but it was one-on-one. So I did. I went over and met. Is that okay?
Do any of you see anything wrong with that? Just a
No.
one-on-one meeting?
I don't.
I actually think she may have called more than one of us over there, but it wasn't at the same time.
We all went at different.
Yeah, because as I was leaving, as I was coming in, somebody was leaving. So is that,
What happens when they start gathering you together? In other words, that's what I'm more concerned about, because I think you're right. A one-on-one, you can meet with anybody. One-on-one, that's not a problem. What
That
happens?
could be in the grocery store.
Can I have Dave and Jeff and the mayor together? Let's look at that one. There's three of you. The mayor's not a voting member, but to Eric's point, the mayor is an unbiased, supposed to remain unbiased, and is supposed to be able to conduct the meeting in an unbiased fashion. And here's the other thing, is when three of you start meeting together in the city hall with a candidate for an office, there's a provision of state law that says you're not allowed to expend public funds or to use any type of public facility to enhance a candidate or their position. So you're kind of running up to another set of laws that the bigger you get, other than a one-on-one meeting, the more it looks like there's cities
is endorsing that? candidate?
endorsing the candidate. Now, one-on-one, you're gonna have trouble stopping that anyway, right? And you shouldn't. They're citizens of the city, unless you feel uncomfortable with it. And I have had city council people say, I don't feel comfortable meeting with this legislator or any legislator, not just this legislator, but any legislator. And so they just put the nix on it. But if you're comfortable one-on-one, you feel okay with that? 2-on-1, 3-on-1, I think you start to cross the line, don't you? You can see the line.
Okay.
I think you guys can see the line. Question? I can see.
So, I mean, to me, if they want to meet one-on-one with you, I kind of had the impression that maybe she, okay, was looking to see how there were ways that she could maybe help cities. And so I don't know, maybe that's a good opportunity to say, look, if you're elected, here's what we deal with. Is that altogether a bad thing? Or?
So what would be a good response to her if she wants to ask the city how she could help you best? What would be the best way for her to do?
Talk to the mayor.
Talk to the mayor. Get on.
Call Denise.
That's what I was gonna say. I'd say to her, the better idea would be for you to come to a city council meeting.
Get on the
and
agenda.
Let's discuss it there as an entire council, rather than asking me, in my opinion, right here. I'd rather have you in front of the council so that we're out front and open with what we're doing.
Well, that almost transcends to anything. I mean, I know in the past, there's been issues that people talk to me about, and I've said that. You need to get on the agenda and come talk to the whole city council, just not me.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. If you feel uncomfortable just addressing an issue, maybe regarding a garbage can, if you haven't had a garbage can issue yet, you're probably not been on the council very long. But anyway, the council on a one-on-one basis, you can respond to things like that because you know who you can call, right?
Mhm.
But when it starts to become what city issues are of concern to you, it's better exactly what Eric says and what you guys just said. Get on the agenda, talk to the mayor, get on the agenda because this is important to all of us.
So
Gary,
on the agenda as a public comment, or they could possibly have an item.
Great question. So generally, if they've just got a general issue, that's what that public comment piece is for. And it's limited to 5 minutes, so that may not be enough time. You can go ahead and decide to place her on the agenda, he or her on the agenda, and give them an opportunity. Just tell them they've got 10 minutes, 15 minutes on the agenda, whatever it happens to be. And then you put them on as an agenda item. Who can put people on the agenda? Who has the right to?
the mayor,
Denise.
council member.
Answer. Okay, let's go on to the next. It is
Take Gary.
The mayor.
the mayor. Sorry, David, just 1 second. The mayor,
Okay.
the mayor does,
Council member,
and 2 council members.
2 council members.
But things on the agenda. If two of you feel that something ought to be put on the agenda, actually, any council member can put it on. It takes two to take it off, to decide that they don't want it on. So,
So like Ty and I have a pre-meeting
mhm,
to go over what's on the agenda. That's legit.
that's it. Yeah.
That's the way.
He's gonna get your check too.
So you retire, what happens? Your hearing goes, your memory goes. Yes, that's perfectly acceptable. You and any staff member,
So if a council member or members have an agenda item, then would they talk to the mayor or, and then the mayor would, me and Ty would put that on the agenda if we wanted, or,
yeah,
but if a council member wanted to put the item on,
Just you.
I was gonna say, does it have to?
I was
go
gonna
through
say,
Ty?
no,
No, it's
So-
not just him.
So the items that I give you are administrative items ready for action, right? Ready for the next decision point, or it's everything that accumulates on my desk that says, and that's my role, is to decide what I can decide and what needs to come to council. So when we have that meeting, Denise and I prep it, but you review it. And so any of those items, that's actually that process of you saying, is there anything else? The process of legislative discussion items could be, Eric took a phone call from somebody, says, hey, I have this concern. He would contact you, and in that meeting, if there's anything not on the agenda that you're either personally want to discuss or something that you've heard, a request from anybody, they go through you and you decide if it's
okay,
a
so
discussion.
let me give you an example.
Okay.
Probably some council members have had comments on the cemetery and the parks and stuff like that. And if a council member talks to the mayor about it, then the mayor can put it on the agenda to discuss a plan of action. Is that okay?
be perfectly appropriate.
And then the other question I had was if a council member or members want to have an item come on the agenda, then they would contact me, correct?
That's correct.
And then I could just put that on the agenda.
But what you need to do is let Denise know at least 24 hours in advance for items to be placed on the agenda. For people to come in for just public comment, anybody, you can tell them anybody to come in for public comment.
So-
They can comment on anything.
And Mayor, and
Have it ready the Friday before,
Usually
right?
the
Is
Friday
Typically
before.
when you would like all of the
But
agenda.
if I've already posted it and something comes up, then I can post an amended
amendment.
agenda within 24 hours.
So the
Like
Friday
instruction.
before this meeting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the magic time, the 24
So
hours.
it's actually Thursday when we meet, but Friday's my deadline.
Mayor, so every conversation doesn't necessarily mean you just, if you want it on the agenda, you put it on the agenda. If we talk about it and you're satisfied with where the feedback's coming and what's being handled, it doesn't have to be on the agenda. That's the magic of you and I.
Yeah, and so
Working
we
together.
can talk over, say, some comments from the public, you and I, and then
Mhm.
I should get back to that council member who had a concern and also a lot of public comments.
Or you say, hey, will you follow up? You can assign it, you can deliver it back, right? So that's the interaction between. Or if it's something that you're like, I don't care what you say, I don't care what you're doing, I want the public to hear this, I want it on the agenda, you make it an agenda item and we discuss it in public. That's appropriate.
It could be a discussion only item. It doesn't have to be one that a decision is.
It's a
made on.
discussion.
And that's what it'd be listed under on the agenda, would be just discussion only.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Our legal counsel. So Gary, I've often thought of this in a public comment. section. If some, you know, over the years, I've watched Mayor Little handle this. Is the best course of action not to really respond at that time to that comment, or just thank you, I appreciate the comment, we'll take it under advisement? You know, rather than at that moment, try and answer the questions or try and pacify or, you know. How's the best way to handle that?
Your years of experience, what have you found the best way to handle it?
Just say, we will take it under advisement and thank you for your comment. And
That's
yeah.
exactly. That's
And then
exactly.
does that comment usually carry on to the next meeting?
It could.
Or do you just make contact with maybe that individual?
I think probably in some cases, the mayor probably made contact with that person, you know.
Or sent staff
Or, you
to
know,
So that
find out more.
a lot of times the mayor will say, I see Ty over here taking notes. Can we get your phone number and your contact information? And he'll get back with you if it's a question that he can answer like that. That's the best way. And then you don't need to stack it up for the next meeting.
right.
That would be a good way to handle that.
Well, I assume that was the best way to do it, but I was just curious.
No, that's perfect. That is a perfect way. A lot of times we want to engage because we want to answer people's
Right.
questions.
Right.
But a lot of times, we don't have all the facts. You know, the people that work for electric have the facts on electric, and the city manager has the facts on city manager stuff. And here we are, sometimes up at the podium, you know, I'm talking about as elected officials sometimes. You get at the podium and you try to answer it, and really the answer is with the staff. You know, staff can answer it easily. So, yeah. So who can shift things? Last question, who can shift things around on the agenda? Who has the authority to do that for you guys?
The mayor.
Yep, the mayor. The mayor can shift, he can shift something down further on the agenda. He can drop something from the consent items to the comment period. Yeah, you're pointing to Denise. Denise can also shift things around on the agenda. She is so good.
I agree with that.
She really is. But
But it's something we could make a recommendation of, hey, can we swap those if
When we're making a motion. to
When remote,
approve the
yeah,
agenda, we could
approve.
also make a motion to change around the agenda also during that motion to approve the agenda.
yes,
for the night?
but
Yeah.
interestingly enough, and here, I don't know what the reason is, but it says that if two of you object to the shifting of an item from one place to another, that you can actually keep that thing in the same place, but we've never used that. So, because we've never had two people, you know, at that point, that much conflict, so.
Gary, I've got a question on public hearing before we quit. On the procedures there, number 6C, after the public hearings open, says at that point, all parties interested in addressing the issue are invited to speak before any discussion is held by the council and before motions are made. It seems like you read in the newspaper, you know, time and again of council and commission meetings going till midnight because people are allowed to speak, and there's so many of them that it just takes up all the time. Talk about limiting that, and is it something that should be written in our procedures?
That's a very good point, David. The mayor is really the one that controls that. And there's a couple of phrases that every mayor learns early in his career when you get your first public meeting with everybody coming in. There's a lot of people here to speak to this issue. If you have a representative that will express your viewpoint, would you please have that representative come up, and we'll give them a little additional time. Other than that, because of the numbers we have, that's the first thing the mayor says is bring it together. Second thing is limited time. We've got enough people in here that we'll limit it to 3 minutes each, if that's okay. And then the last thing is redundancy.
Yeah.
If you're going to say what's already been said, we get the message with just one, we're fine with that. So you don't need to say over and over again. If you got new information, please present that to us. But those are the three ways of managing a crowd during the course of a real contentious hearing. So
When we had our zoning change here a couple of years ago, you would start to hear the same comments over again. And I think the council was polite and courteous in listening to everyone. But I think that could have probably been condensed some and shortened because of the duplication.
Great
Do
point.
we have a clock, Ty, that you'll click on? When you say 3 minutes, is that the mayor's job? Do we have a?
So I'm sure Denise has a clock because she times our meetings. You know? No,
Denise times Ty's lunch break.
so you can set a timer.
I didn't know if we had one of these screens, you could hit.
I'm
Here,
sure that
3 minutes
there's a
are
way.
up, here 3, so they can, I didn't know if these did that on our system.
Maybe we could get a jumbo.
So funny comment was, it was Theta, our previous recorder. We had a bunch of people and chickens. If you ever want a crowd, try talking chickens, just neighborhood chickens. And every time 3 minutes was up, she'd have a chicken, cluck, 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 cluck.
Yeah. Do you know, Gary, an option two in a public hearing like that would be to postpone the hearing to a later date. If the mayor felt that there was information that hadn't been given and that would be informative.
Yes, yeah, you could do that.
Well, I personally appreciate the training first time. and It's been good.
Thank you, Mayor.
Let's adjourn this meeting.
That's the perfect way to cut off a lawyer when he talks to.
One of them is to adjourn. I didn't realize that requires a motion.
Or the way we've been doing it by practice
Yeah.
is the mayor can actually said we're at the end of the agenda.
Yeah, because we
Meeting's
did,
adjourned.
I've always thought it did require a motion to adjourn.
It doesn't.
Oh,
It doesn't. It says that in here, but by practice, we've been doing it differently. We don't-
Good training, Gary. Thank you.
Thanks, David. And it's actually written this time, so you can actually take a look
yeah,
at
that's a
it.
good one.
Yes, very much.
Thanks, Denise, for preparing that too.
Find some I need. Things I need your signature on.
Yep. Yeah, thanks, Denise. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. I might have Mason look at it just to make sure, because if you would, because he said he'd take a look at it. Yeah.
Sure. We have those where we have different opinions. I actually like it when we have a different opinion because then if we can meet in the middle, then usually we're gonna find the right decision. Compromise a little bit. Official meeting though.
Now, everybody that's going to be talking about David right now in between the meeting and they probably want to.
Nobody's mic is on mute. Denise, I don't have any audio.
Go green.
I gotta go green.
Yep,
Is that
we're good.
better?
That works. Thank you.
Let me start over. I'll welcome everybody to the general meeting of the city council. And excuse Jeff Wardell, who's not with us today, and ask Ty to give the pledge of allegiance, and then Tony will give the opening prayer.
All rise. Repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father in heaven, as we commence the city council meeting tonight, we would ask that we might have thy spirit to be with us, to guide, direct us, and to help us. And Father, help us that we might always act in a responsible way, that we might always act in a fair and equitable way, that we might always have thy spirit to guide, direct us into decisions which we make, that we might do those things which are a benefit to our community and the citizens that live therein. We're grateful, Father, for the opportunity to serve, and we ask that we might always do it responsibly and again, have thy spirit to direct us. Father, we're grateful for this beautiful valley in which we live. We're thankful for the blessings that we enjoy daily and for all that thou bestows upon us. And we're grateful for our freedom. We're grateful for those who have secured our freedom and for those who continue to serve and attempt to keep us out of harm's way. And we ask that thou might protect and watch over them. And we're very grateful for those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our behalf and for our freedoms. And we're very thankful and for them and dedicated to them. Again, Father, we are grateful for all which thou hast blessed us and given us. Again, we pray for thy spirit to be with us, and we say these things in the name of thy son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 The pledge and that prayer gives me a tingle. That's wonderful. Thank you. On the consent.
Mayor, I don't know, is it appropriate, you excused Jeff from not being here. Do we need to acknowledge that Dave's on electronically? Or does that get acknowledged, I guess, in the minutes, right?
Well, Dave, we're gonna acknowledge you.
Okay.
We acknowledged you earlier, but
All right. Thank you.
the training participated in getting the mayor's head straight.
I have and apologize for not being in person. I don't know if you mentioned, but I have a grandson living with us that's tested positive, so it made sense to stay home.
Okay, we appreciate it.
Good luck.
Okay, is there a motion to approve and second the meeting's agenda? This meeting's agenda.
Mayor, I'll move to approve tonight's meeting as formatted.
I'll second that.
Okay, Jeffrey has a motion to approve it. Eric seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now let's move down to the consent agenda. And has everybody had a chance to look that over? On the agendas and the warrants? And is there?
I have a couple of questions on checks though,
On the
on the warrants.
warrants, okay?
So Ty, just on page one, the payment to the bucket truck, it seemed like we had a new bucket truck last year. Is this a second one?
Yeah, we refer to this one as the large bucket truck.
Okay, and had been waiting for it for a while, right?
Yeah, we actually ordered this one a year and a half ago.
Yeah. Are we in good shape then on the trucks? Is that you're not looking at anymore?
Yeah, in the power department.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Yep, we're in we're in pretty good shape now. We will have a truck for sale.
A bucket truck.
Mhm. Yes.
And the other question I had was the payment to the school district for the land purchase. How do where does that money come from? How is that funded? What's the source?
So we also received 250,000 from the county, but this doesn't reflect revenue. This is only,
Yeah, okay.
so through the COG or Council of Governments, we used a corridor preservation money to buy the land for the corridor, which is the bridge.
Okay. And you've told us that before, so thank you for the repeat. That's all I had. Thanks.
Anybody else have any discussions? Thoughts?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the city council work meeting minutes from June 14th, 2022. The city council meeting minutes from June 14th, 2022. The special city council meeting minutes from June 22nd of 2022, and the one set of warrants.
Second discussion? Oh, wait, second, okay.
Tony
I'll
seconded.
get there, bro. Eric made a motion to accept the minutes, Tony seconded it. Are there any discussions before we take a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Looks like the minutes are passed. Denise, have you received any requests from citizens' comment? Okay. Okay, on the active agenda, item A is the final approval of amendment of Clark UDOT subdivision. We talked about this. And by the way, if there's anybody joining us on Zoom or YouTube, we welcome you. We talked about this in the work meeting, and do you want to explain anything about it, Ty?
Sure. So the Clark UDOT subdivision is at the end of Industrial Road. The Adams Construction bought a lot there and they put the storage units there, but the subdivision is needing amended. Went through Planning Commission in April, and basically this also includes an agreement for them to extend the road to the end of the current parcel. And then do an agreement with the adjacent property owner that if they develop, they would be required to put the rest of the road into the end of the new lot that just got amended in the subdivision. So the amended subdivision adds an acre to what was there. The development agreement covers the road and utilities that would be required to the end. And so this allows them to develop one more acre and make sure that the road and infrastructure are covered in the future by future development.
Welcome, Corey.
Thanks.
Glad to see you could make it.
Those church calls getting away.
Well, it's good to shuffle things, right?
That's right.
So Corey, just to bring you up to date, we talked about this in work meeting so that we're pretty informed on it.
Okay.
And we also triggered our memories as to when this went before the Planning Commission. So do you have any comments on any discoveries, any further things that you found?
No, we don't have any additional discoveries. I mean, obviously, we want to move forward with our project so we can get going. And we agreed to doing the developmental agreement for that road. So I don't have any we don't have any discrepancies there. We haven't found out any additional things there. We are working with the city because when that road was put in originally, there were some things that were not completed on that road. So we'll work with the city and getting those completed with the city, obviously needing to fund the portion of the storm drain area sump. We'll help you guys put it in, but that would be the city buying that material so that we can put it in for you. That was not put in for some reason or the other when that road was put in. So what happens right now is we're collecting the city's water at the end of that into our detention pond, which we've got to resolve that. So we've agreed to help the city do that. And I think the city's agreed to work with us on that as well.
Mayor, may I ask a question I didn't ask in a work meeting? So maybe just spoke to this a second ago. So is there utilities that are going to have to be under this new roadway?
So there's water that would be extended, Tony. The sewer is already extended there, but we would extend the water.
To the end of this new road, correct?
Correct.
Ty, I think that's.
And
Mayor?
Go ahead, Tony.
that would be on their dime or our dime, or how are we handling that?
Yeah, so the water road would be on theirs. I forgot to mention the storm drain, but the issue with the storm water is that's the water for the entire length of the road. And so we're gonna participate on the sump, because it's not their responsibility to put that storm water somewhere. They're only responsible for the segment right in front of their property.
Mhm.
And so they are responsible to extend the water line to the end, the road to the end. The sewer's already there. The sewer goes all the way to the sewer plant, of course. And so everything else that's just in our road standards
Yep.
is theirs to do. So curb gutter, I think sidewalks already in.
Sidewalk on the Clark Dairy side, that there's no sidewalk on there at all. So we would just maintain the current profile that the city
Right.
has with that road, which would mean that we have sidewalk in front of our area.
Yeah, and you're not responsible for sidewalk on the other side. That's
Correct.
And they're responsible for their half of the road, but in this development agreement, Adams are gonna bring it to the original property line, like it's depicted but I appreciate that. I forgot to mention that we're participating on the sumps because they've been taking the stormwater on their property for the entire road because that was also not installed at the time, and that was our responsibility to inspect,
Yep.
So, I mean, we took ownership of the road without this sumps installed for some reason. Before our time, I guess, before my time.
You don't feel like you need to take everybody's stormwater, huh?
Well, we can. I talked to the attorney before, a couple months before. We're happy to do that. We would obviously need to bill the city back for some cleanup. We're happy.
No, I'm just kidding you.
I know we're good.
I was just thinking it might be a big enough pond and you like to fish.
Yeah, we do like to fish.
Mhm.
Yes.
Steve, I've got a question for Gary.
Gary, we had, or
You-
Dave, we had Gary just making a comment. So
I
give
just
us
didn't.
just a
my
second.
button.
I couldn't hear you, Gary.
Yeah, he didn't have his green button on. Sorry.
All right.
Just a question. So in section, let's see. Section 1, where it says developer agrees to fully improve the portion of street extending industrial road 90 feet as identified in Exhibit B, matching the profile of the existing road. So that would be curb gutter and sidewalk on one side. Is that correct? Okay.
That's the profile that's currently there.
That's okay. Want to double check. So
So on the other side of the road, is there gonna be a curb?
At the point of development.
So when they choose to do that, then they'll have to do that at that point.
Sorry, Dave. Thank you.
Okay, Dave.
So Gary, the agreement, I think paragraph 7 talks about recording of the development agreement. When does that take place?
Upon signing and upon the recording of the subdivision amendment.
So it's just attached to the amendment at the same time.
Yeah, around the same time, because I think, does Teresa I think the developer actually takes the plat down and then we walk across and record the
Okay.
agreement.
All right, good. Thank you.
Okay.
So, so Mayor,
Tony.
Gary, so these are two, so we would need a vote on the final improvement and also obviously a vote on the agreement, correct?
That's correct.
Two separate.
Two separate votes, two separate motions, I mean,
You could do it in one if you wished.
could you?
Yeah, you could. Do that.
All right.
So A and B.
Uh, So. Mayor. I am prepared to make a motion that we would approve the final approval and approval of the give final approval of the amendment of the Clark UDOT subdivision and also resolution 2222, a resolution adopting and approving an agreement for development of land between Morgan City and Lucerne Management Company, LLC.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, Tony, we have a motion from Tony, a second from Jeffrey. Is there any more discussion on this? Dave, did you have a question or comment?
No, that was answered. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Does that need to be a roll call?
No, because there's no money.
Yeah, there's no money. Okay, looks like it's unanimous. Move forward, buddy.
Thanks, Dave.
Who's your partner there, Corey?
This handsome young man is my 10-year-old son, Kason.
Is he your supervisor?
Next great linebacker.
Right on.
And he-
We can see it right now.
Boy, he looks a lot like his mom.
Good.
Linebacker, I thought you were a basketball coach.
I'm a wrestler coaching basketball. That's right.
Thank you. Oh, good. Okay. Item C. Still Solar 1B project amended and restated. Transaction scheduled under the master firm power supply agreement with Utah Associated Municipal Power Systems and related matters, resolution 2227. Is there any discussion?
I'd maybe ask Ty to give us the reason for the change.
Did you hear that?
You okay?
Yeah.
Just letting you direct traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor. So this is a project that we've already passed a resolution to be part of. The terms of the contract changes such that we needed to come back for governing body approval. So we have 50 kilowatts of interest in this project. It's a solar project, but has some challenges with transmission. So it's called 1B. Solar 1A is the original project, and this is an adder of capacity to that same project. I'd been watching different projects with their different challenges and where they locate, where they were located. And so this was one that we felt good about getting involved in where 1B had already developed most of the issues. But as they got into it, the transmission has capacity issues for as much this extra 40 megawatts that they want to do. And so all it does is change the term of the pricing a little bit. It's still under 3.5 cents a kilowatt hour in pricing. So it's still competitive. I think it was like 3.2 when we first signed it. So it's still, I think, a good price for power, but the timing is going to be contingent on transmission line upgrades. And so we're a couple of years out before it's ever even put online. And so that's what this is.
Ty, didn't the agreement though call for a completion date no later than June of 24?
Yeah.
And so they're still on track for that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it pushed to. We were originally, I think in 2023, but the contract does have some terms on, as we go on a project, if there's reasonable delays and there's some conditions about what that equals, and we're still good to go as long as it doesn't change. But
Okay.
now that's what we're agreeing to. So anyway, if something major does change or pricing changes outside of what we've agreed to, then we would bring it back
Right.
or abandon the project.
So the question for you, Ty, either you or Gary, the contract calls for the purchase and sale of firm supplies of electric power and energy. What's a firm supply?
That's the title of the project within UAMPS. So because this is not a UAMPS owned projects, it's a power purchase agreement. We're just agreeing to buy power from Steel Solar. But UAMPS does that in one of their projects, which is it's called FIRM is the project. I'm a voting member on that.
Well, does that mean that would imply that there's power that's not firm. Do you ever see that? Unfirm power supplies?
Yeah, so it's just the name of the project that we're in. So we have Hunter is its own standalone project. The Horse Butte Wind project is another project. And within FIRM, it's a kind of a catch-all. It's where our purchase power agreements all go into one project and we evaluate a different mix of
Yeah, I wonder,
resources.
probably needs to be capitalized FIRM then, if it's addressing that in particular.
Mhm.
Not a big deal. Thanks.
Any more discussion on this? It's above my head. Glad Ty's here. Is there a motion and a second to approve resolution 22-27?
Mayor, I'd move to approve resolution 22-27, authorizing the Steel Solar 1B project amended and restated transaction schedule under the master firm power supply agreement and with Utah Associated Municipal Power Systems and related matters.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, Dave gave a motion. Jeffrey gave a second. Is there any more discussion?
Mayor, so Ty, so do they have the transmission available for this project, or are they still working on getting more transmission for this where does it stand?
Yeah, they're working on it. So there's right now they're doing the upgrades, but they don't anticipate that the upgrades will be done. It delayed the schedule, right? So
So what's the, I'm sorry. So what's the timeline now? Is it, when does this look to go online?
By the end of 2024.
That's what Dave was
Yeah.
mentioning, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
I think it's like any other project known to man right now, with the supply. Getting everything you need to finish a project.
Yeah, yeah. So Pacific Core does all the transmission. They're doing an upgrade right now. It just delayed it, but they have the capacity right now for still solar 1 or A, and then this is just for B. Both their schedules got disrupted, but not as much as B.
Remind me again how many units this was supposed to be?
This is just solar farm.
Mm,
This is just, and
This is not, okay, I'm just confused. We're talking solar, we're not talking about new scale now, right? It's all solar.
yeah. So the carbon-free project has a whole other transmission.
I guess that's what I was asking about, so, okay.
Yeah, but that's a sizable project, and we can talk about that.
So when you're talking transmit, is it for everybody on, I'm looking at Schedule 1, all the different members buying it? We're significantly further away than, well, I guess not necessarily than Logan, but the transmission going north, south, every direction is having an issue.
Yeah, so the way it works, this is just our percentage. This isn't in line. This is just a percentage.
Of what
And
it's
when the
gonna be.
project's on, everybody has power at their percent. And however that project generates, then we just get credit. Once no matter where the project is, it puts power out on the grid. We get credit for that. And then where we pull power from determines how that gets metered. It's not like we will never use these electrons
That they're producing.
here, right? And it's not directional. It just gets, you just light up the
Like,
grid.
yeah, like
You know what I mean? So you get credit for
It's thrown in a
what you
bucket.
put on,
we get in the bucket,
you get charged
Part
for
of
what
this
you pull
bucket.
off. Yep.
okay, I want to make sure.
We talked when Ty originally proposed the project, either last work session or the one before. I remember coming away impressed with Ty's assessment of why we were taking the percent that we did, the 0.13. I mean, you look at St. George and they're in it big time. But Ty was taking a little bit of a cautious approach. I think in part because it is solar, it's a little bit new, and it's something that worked for us where, because of proximity, where some of the others didn't. I think you've done a good job, Ty, in assessing where we need to be in it.
Yeah, thanks. It's just everyone has a different portfolio. And so if you don't mind, I could explain that a little bit too, but
Yes, please.
As we work into the future, every utility is responsible to identify future resources. So you're not allowed to be a utility and say, hey, we're just gonna buy on the open market. We're not gonna develop any new resource. You have to cover your actual needs in resource somewhere. And that's why you see some of these others that are really struggling because their growth and the amount of energy that they consume. So when they get into some of these projects, that's why they buy in at a higher amount, is because they have to have that energy resource replacement. So as a coal plant, for example, comes offline, in that same year, you have to have something scheduled to replace that. So you're not a negative on the system. And our need is, we don't have much of a need at this point in time. And so we did a little bit on solar. It's only 50 kilowatts, but there's a couple reasons. One is it does give us another renewable resource. And it's one that we currently don't have. I've been waiting for a solar project that looked like it was worth doing. We've had others in just the agreements and the placement of them. It's been challenging to find one, but this only covers, we don't have a need at that point in time but we also don't want to duplicate or if you agree to buy more power than you're actually consuming, then you're at a deficit as well. So it's a tricky balance of how much you're. buying and at what point in time. So anyway, that's some of the thought behind
Yeah.
it. The other thing, the reason why we didn't go real heavy on solar is because there's a time of day charge, and the price of power in the middle afternoon is when it seems like it would be the most expensive, but it's actually all of the resources that are coming online seem to be, most of them right now are geared towards solar, which means power is
It's a-
more expensive on other times of the day, and that's what I'm more interested in finding is,
Doesn't work that great when the sun's down, does it?
nope. Yeah,
There's some pretty big projects that this same company has put in. I think even in Utah, I think there's one down by Mona that's good size there. Similar to what this one is in Box Elder.
yeah, and actually, that's an advantage to us because our transmission is where it's generated in proximity to where we pull it from, and so the transmission charge will be less. Even, it's a small amount of power. We don't want to pay, we don't want to do 50 kilowatts, a state away. We'll pay more to transport it than,
Yeah.
Would St. George pay a premium for it, Ty, being that far away?
yeah, it'll just not, well, I'll pay exactly the same for the power. It's just the transmission charge is gonna.
Right.
Yep.
That's a long ways down there.
Yeah, but it's also a lot of power. That's why they go in more, because as long as they're paying that transmission charge,
Oh, gotcha.
they need to get credit for the, you know what I mean?
Yeah, some economies of scale that come into play.
Yeah, if you're gonna drive a truckload of something
Yeah,
from
Make sure
here,
it's full.
yeah,
Make sure you're utilizing it.
yeah, fill it up, right?
yep,
That makes sense.
so. Okay, that's
Okay, we
all I have.
still feel good about the motion and the second? Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay, Denise, it was unanimous. So item D, Eric, CWPP Participation Commitment Agreement for 2023. This is for information only. There's no motion necessary at the end of your.
Okay, perfect. So this is again, entering into the agreement in the Community Wildfire Preparedness Plan. We've done this several years before. This is the agreement where we will agree that we'll do some in-kind work to mediate some of the fire danger that's around us. And so we did a bunch of work at the Robinson Springs cleanup. And we've done some other work down at the sewer lagoons, and we had that one workshop to kick this off over to North Morgan. And so all those, the years that we did all that, we ended up with a big credit.
Mm.
So basically this year, we're still running off that credit for this year. So we'll be under that agreement again, so that if there's a wildfire in our city, that we won't be on the hook for so much money for fighting that wildfire. So this was a good agreement to go into with the state. So
So the way that works is like at the Robinson Spring, you cut material down and.
Yep, we cut material and we did a bunch of cleanup up there, and so that gave us a big credit. But we can keep track of all our equipment hours, all the man hours, all the hours that we put in there, and so that's where they end up giving us credit. for our dollars.
Eric, would the fire need to be within the city limits?
It,
Mm-mm.
the county takes care of the first
Yep.
response. And then anything above and beyond that is the state of Utah takes responsibility for. Good example was Cove Fort, which had the fire before this program was set up. And they ended up costing them millions of dollars. Finally, they had to come to a settlement with the state, but this prevents that from happening to small towns and even big ones like Layton and others. So anything that starts within the community and then spreads to the wildland interface is covered by this. So it's really good program, great program.
Yeah, I think that'd be Ty's backyard.
So there was a fire over in Centerville, was it?
Yeah,
And that's
Exactly,
cover that instance.
exactly. Centerville gave their first response along with the interlocal all the folks around. And then what they couldn't cover, which is the helicopters and the other things that came in, that's all covered by the state, which is really a deal. That's
It really is, because otherwise you could end up on the hook for a whole bunch of money and
A lot of money.
a lot of money real quick. So our little bit of assessment, the work that we've done will far outpass. So I believe this is the last year, isn't it, Denise? So we can,
So in 23, we'll.
have to
we'll
find us
start doing
another
some more
project.
projects?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
But it's not that hard to find a project that we can do and keep track of. And
I got one for you.
guys already got it planned.
Something up.
Good work, Eric.
We'll do it, and let's keep track of it, then we'll do stuff.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
It's actually been in that family gene for quite a while to take care of things. Ty, you have some things to share with us there on item A and city reports and business?
Okay, yeah, just a few things. That first one, Edwin Fire Project, so that's with Utopia, it's a project that they have going on, and since we're Utopia customer or city or whatever we call ourselves, this is kind of cool. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it stands for Early Detection Warning Infrared Network. So it's Edwin is it's an infrared camera, and we've met with them, and it'll scan 360 degrees, and we found a location that will actually work really good at our sewer lagoons. Just on the building, kind of Central Valley, but it'll scan, and what it does is it has artificial intelligence that learns the landscape and looks for anomalies and will learn for fire detection, right? So that it'll be able to, it can't pick up heat, it's just works off of light and pixels, but it's something new that's in the works. It's not necessarily reliable, but we're gonna be able to participate and have that system learn and be able to pick up when there's a small fire. And it'll get alerted through Utopia's network. They'll work with the fire chief. So I met with Boyd, and we looked around at a few places, and it's like a $40,000 camera, that they're letting us use with us participating. So we're going to provide our facility and the network, the internet connection and the power that it needs to operate. So anyway, I think that might qualify for
That better.
for some in-kind costs, you know what I mean? Just our efforts to do that. Boyd was pretty excited to see how that works. And then,
So how does that benefit us?
what, sorry, Dave.
How does that benefit us? I mean, I'm not sure what it
Oh,
looks for fires, and then what?
Yeah, detects fires. So like if it picks anything up, Mahogany Ridge or any of those critical areas that have a chance to either start on a hillside and come to the city or vice versa.
What
So it's
about a
early
structure
detection.
fire?
What's that?
What about a structure fire?
It will pick those up,
And then does it alert the fire department?
not directly because it's not reliable at this point. So right now it's a project. It's like a early project, but when we have a fire, we'll let Utopia know, and they'll be able to go back and see what the camera picked up and see if they're, what the camera recorded versus what actually happened, matched up. And vice versa. If we have a fire, we'll let them know so they can.
I guess there'd be some value in identifying a source, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Source, location, and catching it before it's a big deal. So, when everyone else is asleep and not necessarily looking.
Uh-huh.
Well, it'll improve
over time.
Yeah.
over time now.
Yeah, and so we're a study city. The other nice thing.
Kind of a beta tester then.
Yeah, and we're pretty much 360. So, you know, Layton has one and it's more of a 180-degree scannable area because it's, you know, just one side of a mountain and
Mhm.
so anyway, that's just something
If
that
a person burned weeds in their backyard, I guess it'd pick that up.
it picks up everything. So that's what the program is to learn your area and
Uh-huh.
it'll pick up the sun, it'll pick up clouds, it doesn't know the difference until, you know, it'll pick up
Collects the data.
chimney, yep, all the light signatures, and then it'll be able to say, yeah, this is normal, this is
Yeah.
normal, this is normal, this is not. And then identify concentrations of the light to say, yep, that's a fire.
Like it would learn what a chimney is or a fireplace is.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah,
So-
good.
Teenage kids having a bonfire.
Yeah,
Not like the old days, right?
This is like way out there.
Those country kids can't go burn a bunch of pallets and it'll detect it and get them in trouble.
so 4th of July, it was a busy day, really well attended. The parade is now more risky than the float down the river. But we
Yeah.
had a chamber board meeting today and that was brought up and we talked about different ways to address that and have people walk behind floats. We don't have a registration system, but we will go around in the parking lot next year and have somebody, have everyone sign a waiver and then also make each float commit to, you know, what their responsibilities are. So that one thing, because of the Kaysville incident, is to make sure
Mhm.
every float has a spotter. So if it's a truck has a spotter, trailer has a spotter, to, you know, whatever they need. And then we're gonna just do more on traffic control on the parade route. In the past, parents have kept all their kids back. This year,
It didn't happen.
nobody
Wow.
kept their kids
That was a
back. I mean, it
free-for-all.
was right there at the beginning of the parade, there was only barely enough room to get a vehicle through. So it was like driving through a mosh pit, you know what I mean?
Scary.
Yeah, well, Steve will tell you, we had little kids running out in front of our truck.
Yeah, we had to stop a whole bunch of times. So we were fortunate, but you know, even with those concerns, all of the other things were not enough food trucks, not enough
Yeah.
you know, facilities because it was so well attended. Not
Mhm.
enough garbage cans, you know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
all of the, you know, it's like when Commercial Street's super busy and now it's a parking problem. It's like, well, it is a problem and we'll just get better, you know. But in the meeting, I think the chamber has a pretty good plan for next year, just to keep growing the event. So,
Yeah, it was an unprecedented crowd. That's the largest ever.
yeah. Some of that was kind of identified too, because some places had celebrations on Saturday. And so some people came to ours and then there was a couple of places that had not had theirs. And so ours got some interest.
The off-ramp.
Yeah. And our,
Clear.
Really?
and I think there's an attraction to Morgan too. It's still a small event like things used to be, you know.
Yeah, quite a bit of out of town activity.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What are some of the thoughts on how you manage that? Because I've wondered about that for a lot of years where, you know, a lot of candy's thrown and doesn't make it all the way off to the sidewalk. It ends up in the street. Kids are running out there. And like you said, it's narrowed down. I mean, so how do you manage that? I mean, you don't have enough officers to keep people
No.
back.
Most communities do that. Well, they, you know, go back and
Yeah.
forth, but you just set the boundary on the side and have to have people do that, or you stop the parade and say, parade stopped until everyone moves back. Then we'll start moving again. And
They know sometimes your parade will be like this, but pretty soon as it goes on, and it just starts to, you know, narrow up into where
yeah,
it gets a little bit dangerous. So
yeah. So if everybody's instructed that here's your responsibility of of both, right? So it's communicated, and then if people aren't gonna comply, then everyone needs to just be instructed to stop. You don't throw anything, you stop in place, and everyone gets the hint that,
And it went clear to the new road.
yeah, it doesn't, yeah,
All bad.
we don't
All the way
proceed till
down.
everybody backs up.
Come to see you.
So
Okay.
No, I don't know.
anyway,
Everybody else celebrated a different day.
yeah, there's a pretty good fireworks display.
All around.
Yeah, it was,
That was real nice, Ty.
yeah.
I was at the horse parade.
So this agreement with Lumen is CenturyLink. So we just had a meeting over there on Commercial Street. So we realigned Commercial Street in preparation for the bridge. Now we're trying to get the utilities all in a new recorded easement. So we've been back and forth on a couple of different ways to do it, but our guys are gonna decided to just do the trench ourselves for power and then put the conduit in for the communications. So we met with Utopia and CenturyLink. CenturyLink has costs associated with it because their lines are already existing. And we're telling them to move from where they were and come into the road. I wasn't very happy about the costs. I feel a lot better about it today because we got a cost, $52,000 or something. We worked through some cost saving measures today about how this needs to work and why are we replacing a line that needs to be removed and some different things like that. But we're going to get an itemized list. So part of it was I was upset about the cost, but the other part is not knowing what we're paying for. So in the agreement, all it says is engineering, and evidently the costs include the full cost of construction. So anyway, we're working through that.
Question, Ty, on that. On your report from the Utah Local Government Trust, under the section under general liability, it's got a claim for Lumen Technology. Is this the same event?
No, the claim was back from a couple years ago. So it was when they come through, and there was a road project up on 700 East, and one of their facilities was moved or damaged when we just paved this side of a road, and then we just get these random claims. So that claim actually happened when I first got here. It
Okay.
just got long to process, and we went back and forth. They didn't know what they were billing us for. It was too late because, our guys were like, well, just talk to us, if something
Yeah.
happens. And we were there, we were on site, that sort of thing. And we got into a bunch of back and forth. And so my philosophy is when somebody has a claim like that on the city, we just submit it to the insurance, let them make the call on it and have an adjuster
Mm-hmm.
determine the value instead of our staff,
Yeah.
because you can agree with the person on our local representative, but that person's so far removed from the rest of CenturyLink, and then
Yeah.
the claims division is somewhere, states away that
Right.
work back through that process. It's just to get everybody on the same page. And so it was a claim, but it wasn't this, and it wasn't a large amount.
You said it's still open though, is that correct?
No, that was just the report on the claims that had been paid out from our insurance.
Okay.
If I know what report you're referring to, correct?
But yeah, just Morgan City under general liability. Says most expensive open claims, Lumen Technology, and then it's got a claim number and a date of 12/4 of 2021, but there's no dollar amount on it.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I see. It still might be,
Could be the same. Okay.
yeah, but that's the event that I think that is, but that's also why we're working towards a franchise agreement. So
Mhm.
that are spelled out, handled
Yeah.
right then instead of years later through some random process that you can't ever pull back. So anyway, that's probably too much about that. Just some
Okay.
project updates. The train depot is, that's a cool project, but we've completed the grant portion of that. We've closed out. So we received the $72,000 towards it, and we satisfied those grant requirements, even though we're still finishing the project as per the bid. But we were able to get that done in the same budget year, which was awesome for, keep it all in that same year. We're applying for another grant for that same project under economic development in order to finish it out with the, fixtures and make it a visitor center basically. And our proposal is to have the Historic Society use that as their offices and staff a visitor center for a couple hours, limited hours, but at least it's there.
Yeah.
So I'll be writing a grant for that and see if we're successful, just so you're aware about that. And then like the original doors have been restored. There's just some pretty cool things. It's all original flooring. I think I told you that before we pulled up the carpet, but sections of the flooring that was damaged, they were able to take out of the restrooms, salvage that, and then use it to patch the floors because the new restroom is going to be tile. I don't know if I told you, but it used to have 2 restrooms and we're trying to go ADA. We were going to make one ADA compliant and the other one not. We ended up making just one restroom that's unisex, a little bit larger, and the other restroom just becomes a cleaning closet. So that's kind of this design build. You figure stuff out as you go. And it's been awesome in those meetings to hear the architect. I mean, every little thing from that fixture's not original, leave that pipe here, even though it's not connected to anything because it's now part of the building. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you want to sand and stain or do you want to paint? All of those questions. And, it's been pretty cool because the contractors have been good, but the architect's been, there's been it's just been a fun project I've never seen anything, to that level of detail on a historic renovation. So it's been cool. And then like everything else, it's just waiting on concrete.
Yeah.
So we got the ramp poured. I don't know if you noticed the ramp. The upper deck where all the pavers were is going to be stamped concrete. So it'll be stamped in a kind of a wishbone pattern. It'll look like pavers. And then the other side was not originally part of the project, but those stairs were so bad, we did a change order for that. So the tiles, we had original tiles in the basement to patch the roof with.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Anyway, project's moving. Sidewalk project, it's still limping along. We got the curb poured today.
Great.
Got a batch of concrete today, so
He smiles.
it's a slow project.
Your allocation.
Yep. So we did, if you remember, we have 100,000 in sidewalk grant for that. I got a letter the other day that said that sidewalk money is now under federal requirements. And before it was state money. So the state used to take all the federal highway money and put all the federal money into big projects and put, the small ones in state money. So they didn't have all the federal requirements attached to them. And the federal government on that last spending bill changed that rule. So states are no longer allowed to do that. So now we're subject to all federal requirements.
Retroactive.
Retroactive, yeah. So I told them we still want the money. I have no idea how we go back retroactively and comply with federal requirements, but I probably will not apply for that grant anymore if it has federal requirements on it because the project will go up more than the money is worth.
Sure.
Bacon news and all that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
you'd have to do all that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, and
Yeah, not good. at
just
all.
your whole bidding process means you got to pick the most expensive person on the planet with the least performance just because they fit some list, not because it's any, people make a lot of money being in line for
Minority.
for a federal project, federal money. So anyway, that's not appropriate for me to say as the city manager.
Yeah.
I got a little bit political there for a second, but
Yeah,
anyway,
well, it's bizarre anyway.
operationally, it's not cheap money.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. So anyway, we'll see what that means to us. We'll finish out this project, but I'll really take a harder look at it in the future. And I guess it's not out of line for me to, because it is budget, and I can tell you what it's done to our bridge project. It's capped at a $2 million grant, and we've probably almost spent $2 million. We will have spent $2 million in extra requirements by the time we're done, because now it was a 3.8, now it's a 5.5. The time, all the delays, it's just one of those things, but we gotta do what we gotta do, right? Like, we still need a bridge, so you do the best we can. Sewer lagoons come along. They actually just got concrete today as well. So the pad is poured. So all the pipes are in the ground, the pad's poured. Once that cures, then they can mount the blower motors and build the building around it. And so hopefully we get that project moving again. And compliance letter. So we did get a notice of non-compliance from DEQ. Kel did a really good job of responding to it. Did I show you his response? Did you see? You didn't see? I should do that. So Kel just responded and reminded him, yeah, our aerators have been offline since you know about it. And they said, thanks, keep us updated. So not a huge deal, but
I actually thought it was our drinking water when I come by. I said, what's this?
yeah,
You have salmonella or whatever?
salmonella. It was
Yeah.
E. coli. I think it was E. coli.
Find out it was the sewer.
Yeah. Yeah. I said, not our drinking water. This is Weber County's. We're sending it downstream. So whatever.
That's funny.
So I think we did finish the planning grant. So I closed that out. So we did receive what the contractors were obligated to do. We are going to pay them extra for 3 extra meetings. But right now our planning commission and our new planner is going to make all of our recommended changes, finalize them and get them back to them so they can just make one final copy and then bring it to us for adoption. But it will have a lot of our own input by the time it comes to council. So I feel good about where we're at with that project. And that was actually a really easy grant to hit the reporting requirements. I just had to do a quarterly report. All our financials were there. We did in kind, kept track of our hours and such. So I think we talked about the basement project with the health department discussion earlier. So unless there's questions, that's kind of my report for
Council, you got any
I do not.
items?
No, just thank the chamber for 4th of July celebration. That's what a
Was it
animal to try and tame. That's a lot of people. Wow.
Concert was, well, guess it's a concert if it's a one guy.
Yeah, one guy concert.
Yeah. one guy.
Well, they actually had
Well,
over at the fairgrounds another band. So while
Marty Lee?
people were waiting for
Wild Child?
no, what's he called?
2 weeks notice,
2 weeks notice?
Oh, was it
They
Wild
were-
Child back in high school?
I think.
so it was a lot of people over there and at different times of the day. It was good. So I'll let them know.
Okay. This meeting is adjourned.
Where's your gavel?
Denise is gonna put it in her office so she makes sure I get it in here.
Do you see that down?